Around the Ozarks is now on your FM radio. Listen to Around the Ozarks mornings with Grace Gooley as I spotlight local people, stories, and podcasts, all while playing the country legends of the 90s and the hit makers of the 2000s. It's on the Ozarks Best Country, 105.1 The Bull.
Hi, this is Joy Robertson. As many of you know, I love food. I love finding new restaurants. I love trying new dishes. And most of all, I love talking to the many great restaurateurs and entrepreneurs we have here in the Ozarks and beyond. I love hearing their stories, and that's what this podcast is all about, learning more about them and their journey. So join me as we savor the Ozarks. This episode is brought to you by Jim's Steakhouse and Pub, Kitchenland USA, and Springfield's locally owned Fazoli's. There is a very, very well-known restaurant that was born right here in the Ozarks. I am so proud of it, and I know the guy sitting across from me is proud of it too. I'm sitting with Paul Sundy. He is the founder of Big Whiskeys. You all know Big Whiskeys. Started the first one in downtown Springfield. Now it's all over the place. I cannot wait to hear this backstory. You're a busy guy, Paul Sundy. Thanks for taking time to talk to me on Savor the Ozarks.
Yeah, thank you for asking me to be here today. It's kind of a cool little thing, the way this whole thing's set up. So I'm excited to talk with you.
I'm excited too. I want to hear the backstory. And I am right. The first one was in downtown Springfield. What year?
2007, July 4th was in 2007. So it was a labor of love. We did all the work in that store. Like, we did all the construction. We were young and dumb, and we decided that we wanted to try our luck in the restaurant business. I grew up in the restaurant business, so to speak. And when I was 18, I rolled pretzels at Auntie Anne's, and then went to Cheddar's, and then bartended and did some nightclub stuff, and then opened Big Whiskeys and opened a few other locations.
Okay, you say we. Who is we?
So currently there's 4 owners of the Whiskeys Concepts. It's myself, Austin Hershen, Randy Gildahouse, and Jamie Clark, which are all local guys, and we've been partners for 10 years plus now. I think Whiskeys we just celebrated our 20th birthday. So we're not quite 21 yet, but we just celebrated our 20th birthday. And, we kind of made a conscious decision a few years back that it was time to roll up the sleeves. And so we expanded the ownership group and really kind of decided to see how we could grow this thing.
Well, Lord knows you succeeded in that. It's probably gone beyond your expectations, and we'll get into that a little bit. But are you from around here?
So I graduated high school from Marionville, so home of the White Squirrels and the Marionville Comets. I went to high school there for the 4 years. I moved there when I was a freshman. My mom was an elementary principal there for 27 years, maybe 23. She's going to get mad at me for not knowing it. And so then right after I graduated high school, I moved to Colorado, like literally 2 weeks after, to do some stuff. And then I moved back to Springfield, and then I moved to California, and then I moved back to Springfield, and here I am. So I am from Southwest Missouri, is what I tell people, because I've lived in Lamar and Circoxie and all these little small towns.
Okay, so I'm impressed with that. You came up with this concept after having worked in food service. But if I understand, your grandfather operated a bar or a restaurant? It was a bar?
It was both. Yeah, it was a restaurant in the front, and it had a bar in the back. So, he opened for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then the bar was open for late night in Lockwood, Missouri. It was called the Stockyard because he was a cattleman. And, he was a good cook. He was a cook in the Navy. And so he kind of brought that back home and did a little bit of both. And I guess being in the restaurant game's been in my blood. I did not know that it was going to grab onto me, but somebody told me a long time ago, you do what you're good at, and we've been pretty good at this ever since.
Well, it sounds like it. You came by it naturally with your grandfather, and then you did end up with John. I love the pretzels.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So did you work with your grandfather?
I did farm work with my grandfather. So, I hauled hay, moved cows. I was younger, so between the ages of 8 to 13, we would have Sunday dinner at his place. My mom worked in his restaurant. So when I was 8 to 10 years old, I was the little bar kid that would play pool with the farmers that would come in for their happy hour, and I would go sleep in the office. They had a little cot for me in the back. So I don't know that I've ever officially told anybody that part of my life. But yeah, and so, he would let me make French fries and we'd cook burgers in the back. And, so my mom would work there on the weekends while she was going back to school. And it was kind of a lifestyle. We would go rent a VHS player, back in the day when you would rent them. And then his house was like 3 blocks away from the location. So all of us grandkids would go stay there and rent movies and watch RoboCop. So
those were the days. Those were the days. I just love that. All right, so I want to know how you came up with, first of all, the name Big Whiskeys. And if I understand correctly, it was somebody who used to find his way into your grandpa's bar quite often.
Yes, it's definitely it's got a Hollywood theme to it. So there was a guy that would always come into my grandpa's bar, and and he wasn't much of a drinker, but he was, he did drink, and he drank Crown and Coke, and he was like, I'm only going to have one, so make it a big one. And, and he was kind of that guy that had a great story, great toast. He was never an over-the-top drinker. He was just a guy that was there to have a good times, and some days he'd, have one, and some days he'd sit there and just talk for 5 hours and not have any. And it was kind of funny because, when we got this whole thing started, we kind of made that story up through the course of time. Like, I had plenty of guys that could qualify to be Big Whiskey through the course of time, guys that I used to play pool with when I was the 9-year-old and they were, 55-year-old farmers. Mm-hmm. But what happened was as our brand grew, my mom would go back to Lockwood and see some of the old guys, and they're like, we know exactly who he's talking about in that story. And so technically, do I know exactly who that is? I like to think my grandfather died 2 weeks before we opened our first store of cancer, and I like to think that Big Whiskey is my grandpa because he had all the little quippy things. And it was, so Big Whiskey does exist, and he might be somewhere out there right now. But it was, it's definitely passionate in my heart, and it's been really cool to expand on that open-mindedness and just fun restaurant/bar environment.
Well, that's what makes it fun, is when you really get to know your customers. And that's part of what we do on Savor the Ozarks is we let these customers get to know you. Yeah. They may know your name, they may know your face, but they may not know that you used to crash on a cot sometimes in the office of the restaurant when your grandpa, I just love, those are the kind of things that make it a rich story, just like a good customer makes it a really rich restaurant bar environment.
Yeah, we back in the day when we got in this, the one thing that I knew that I wanted, because I started at Cheddar's in the official restaurant business after I rolled pretzels at Auntie Anne's, and I was a busser there.
That was the one here in Springfield?
Yeah,
the one that is crowded 24/7?
Been crowded for 35 years now. And that actually was an inspiration because I started as a busser, ended up waiting tables, and then I would work in the kitchen 2 days a week, wait tables, and this is while I was going to one of the few colleges I've gone to in Springfield. And I started bartending 2 days after I turned 21 at Cheddar's, and Cheddar's was at the time, and I don't know what people think of it now. I'm super proud to say that I worked there, but at the time it was a very scratch-made kitchen, and I know that it's been sold a few times and turned into a big public, traded company. But at the time it was a very scratch-made kitchen, and all the products were very scratch-made, but it just didn't have a very good bar product. And so when we opened Whiskey's downtown, I was like, I want it to have Cheddar's quality food with a celebrated bar product. That was where I think that Cheddar's, and I, had always envisioned it being, what it is slowly growing into today. And I know that some people would say that Cheddar's food quality's gone down after it's been sold for $750 million to, the heavy hitters, and they've increased prices. But, 25 years ago, it was it was what I wanted to be. And so today we're just kind of trying to continue to expand that mindset.
Are you still pretty much a scratch kitchen?
We are a scratch kitchen. Obviously, there's I don't want to, there's some foodies on this, so I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole. But yes, we do make a ton of our own sauces. We also, there's some great independent products that are made in kitchens with our recipes. Now that we've expanded, there's certain things that we can do in bulk that we need to do, so we don't have to charge over the top prices, and so we can get a consistent product in Florida that you get in Springfield, Missouri. So it's so when we launch products right out of the gate, yes, everything is made in our kitchens. Certain products are not. Like there's certain pastas that we get shipped in and things like that. But when it comes to our sauces, when it comes to our seasons, when it comes to all those things, all that stuff is done in-house. I mean, we have prep cooks that come in at 8 a.m. and get after, but they're all recipes that are made from either scratch or, some recipe that we've used over the last 30 years in our normal life, even our seasons. The Big Whiskey Steak season, the Big Whiskey's Fry season was a season that I used when I was 8 years old with my grandpa. So that season has evolved, and people's flavor profiles and their palates have changed through the course of time. Like when you and I were growing up, buffalo sauce didn't really exist. Right. But you think about it now, a 8-year-old is going to have boneless mild buffalo wings. So their tongue, their taste buds have evolved faster than ours. So we have to continue to increase the profiles of the food that we bring. And I'm really happy to say that when we do design our products, we take a little bit of nugget from everybody. Like I tell people, the Happy Meal was made by an employee. There's who knows it better. And as we've gotten bigger, we can't just, as much as I'd love to say, hey, let's go down to the farmer's market and buy, a case of tomatoes, I need 50 cases of those tomatoes. And so we have to source, the way it's appropriate so we can always offer our customers and our friends, the same consistent product.
So take me back again to when you first started toying with an idea of opening a restaurant. Is the same group, the one you started with, still in place today? And who was the first person to go, let's just open it? And how'd you find the building? Like, that's a lot of stuff. But I want to know, it sounds like the people you started it with are still part of it.
Yeah, there's a couple. There was another partner that we had that he since parted ways, and he was one of the other original owners. He was a close buddy, and him and I worked at Cheddar's together. Okay. And, super nice guy, and I was always kind of the dreamer, and he was always kind of the realist, which worked out well for many years. And so the building was next door, so we started Icon Nightclub. So back in the day, if anybody listens to this that is, of my age or a little bit younger than me, a lot of people spent many a night in Icon Nightclub. It was, when I was at my time at bartending, I bartended at a nightclub, and I was like, you can make some good money doing this. But I knew that nightclubs are very fickle, and I was married, and my wife and I were trying to have a kid, and I was like, hey, we need to figure this out because nightclubs can come and go. So there was a space next door in the Marks building. So basically that used to be a suit shop. The Marks brothers owned that building. And Joe, I forget Joe's last name. I don't know what Joe's last name was. Sorry, Joe. He ended up, he kept wanting, he's like, hey, I really want a restaurant in this front space. And so because I was a dreamer, it was originally my idea and my concept, and I knew what I wanted it to be. And then, obviously being a downtowner and spending a ton of time on downtown boards and really engaging in at the time, my community, because downtown was my community. It was on Route 66, so I wanted to lean into that. And Route 66 was not celebrated back then, 20 years ago, the way that it's been celebrated the last, 12 months.
Yeah, people from Japan and all over the world would celebrate it and travel it. But right here, it's really kind of come into its own recently.
And so with the Centennial, it was, so we found this space. We had gotten a few different partners, and I've had over 30 different partners in different projects through the course of my life. I've opened 90 different places, 7 different concepts, some of those being whiskeys. And, I've brought in quite a few different concepts to Springfield and sold them or they've, had their run. So it's,
Are they ones we would recognize? Probably.
Maybe.
This is a surprise to me.
So we brought, I created Parlor 88 back in the day. We had a few of those locations. We brought Whole Hog Cafe to Springfield. We brought Einstein Bagels to Springfield. We brought Fedora Social House, which was the first, and I really wish I'd have never transitioned that one. Fedora was ahead of its time for downtown, and I really wish we'd really rode that one out. And then the Opus, it was our first private cigar bar in Springfield. Icon Nightclub, Vintage Nightclub, and then I think that's it. Then we had New York Style Dogs, which we were the first, but we were part of kind of a conglomerate to do the rolling hot dog stands in downtown Springfield. Yeah, So New York Style Dogs was one of them, and then we kind of just kept dreaming, and every time we'd do something, we continue to see how we could do it a little bit better and what we would do different, and then we started traveling and opened some places in different locations. That started taking a ton of time. Dublin's Pass. I started Dublin's Pass.
I had no idea, Paul. I didn't realize this about you. I really didn't. Yeah. And a lot of people that are listening to this won't realize all the things you've done here. Yeah.
I've done a ton of stuff. I remember naming Dublin's Pass. I was sitting in my couch. I was watching the Ryder Cup, and they were over there, and they were talking about there's a pass in Dublin that you can get on and off the bus. It's just a normal, and it was called the Dublin Pass. And so I created the concept, and the Dublin Pass was about these doors, and you'd paint different doors. And I don't even know I don't know the current owners. I've been there, I've eaten there a few times since they've since sold it to the guys that I sold it to. And it's a great place, and if you don't go there, you should. But it's, I don't even know that they know that story about how it got its name. So quite a few concepts, and then we've expanded outside of that. We have a real estate company, and we kind of, we dabble in a lot of things. And I volunteered a ton with a ton of different things.
Do you sleep? I ask people this a lot, but really I'm wondering if you ever get any sleep. Holy cow, dude, you are one busy guy.
Yes, I do sleep. I sleep a lot more now that both my kids just went back to college or started college, so I'm officially a 2-day-old empty nester. So the thing that I used to say back in the day was I didn't used to like to sleep because I just felt like I was giving up on the day. And as I've gotten older, and Andrea, our marketing, she knows that she'll get a text from me at 11:30 at night, and I'm like, hey, I just got to get this off my brain, because I'm still heavily involved in the concepting of our food and what our operations is and what it needs to be and what it can be, and so sometimes it's hard to turn that off when you're really passionate about the representation of yourself.
Sure. What a fun existence, though, because I love to travel and I love to eat. I love to go to the National Restaurant Show and just look around and see what people have come up with, flavor profiles, things like that. And I just get so excited about it. I could tell by the way you're talking and by your history, you get very excited about it too. Okay, back up just a second. You said that you were watching the Ryder Cup and you got the whole idea for Dublin's Pass, the name. I was stalking your Facebook a little bit yesterday, and I've seen that you have been to Dublin on St. Pat's. Have you done that more than once? Because I've done it too.
It is. So my wife is my beautiful, underpaid travel agent, and we went there, and we had purchased something from Lost and Found at one of their charity events, and it was a trip to Ireland, and we were like, well, when you have kids and they're in their senior years and their high school years and they're very active, you kind of run out of time to get to do stuff if you want to participate in their life. And we had the stars just aligned, and it was like, we're going to Dublin, we're going to do it over St. Paddy's Day, and it was one of the coolest experiences. My wife ended up getting a tattoo on St. Paddy's Day in the Temple Bar District. She got a 4-leaf clover.
Wow.
And we dressed up and did all the stuff, and I would do it again 1,000 times over.
Yeah, I did. My husband and I were there once on St. Pat's, and it was packed.
Yeah.
There was this parade, and I remember being in just an absolute shoulder-to-shoulder crowd.
Yeah.
And the Temple Bar. Yeah. I mean, it was. Have you done it more than once?
I have not. I've done Dublin one time, and what a lot of people didn't understand, and I didn't know this because I'm not like a super big geography buff, but it's smaller than the state of Missouri, from corner to corner. So you can literally drive to one. So we kind of, we were there for 10 days. And, so when you're there for 10 days, you can kind of take it all in. We went to every St. Peter's church. And then we went and jumped over and did London for a couple days. But, I mean, listening to a cover band play Zombie in the Temple Bar on St. Paddy's Day, I've got a video of it. I should have posted. I don't post on Facebook nearly as much as I live. So it was, it's an experience. And I have this weird thing that I like to buy T-shirts or sweatshirts off of employees because I don't want the tourist shirt. I want the shirt that they're wearing. And I was able to buy my wife a T-shirt that is a 1 of 20. In the Temple Bar. So if you ever see her out and about wearing a Temple Bar shirt, it is an employee shirt that made me super happy I was able to buy.
Wow, that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole.
It would need to be video because I'm going to have to see every one of these that you've talked an employee out of. That's just a great story. But I can tell by the way you talk and by your Facebook that you do love travel. And you love music.
Oh, yeah.
You're not only a concert family, or not a concert guy, you're a concert couple.
Yeah.
And maybe even a concert family.
Yeah, so we definitely love concerts. I don't know why, but I just, for some weird reason, I'm a below average musician. But I just, back in the day, like, that was another little business we dabbled in. We brought a few musicians to Springfield, and like we brought Slash to Drury, and when we were doing kind of one of the first downtown revitalizations, we brought some bands down there. So we've always kind of just liked them, and there's something about going to a concert, and we always try to buy pit tickets if we can, because it's way more fun down there just in it with everybody. Mm-hmm. And I kind of started that when I was 16, and we've gone to well over 100 concerts, and our kids like going to them. And like their first one we took to was Imagine Dragons. So if you ever want to take your kids to an age appropriate but still a rock show, Imagine Dragons they are the real deal. So take your kids to the Imagine Dragons. But we just got back. I say we dropped our daughter off at Missouri State, and we moved her into the dorm, and my wife was like, hey, All American Rejects are playing in Sedalia. And it was like 4:00, and she's like, do you want to go? And I was like, what else do we have to do? And she's like, anything we want. And so we hopped in our truck, and we headed to Sedalia and went and saw a concert.
So I was going to ask you, what was your last one, and what is your next one?
So that was our last one, and our next one is, I think we have tickets. Once again, my concert connoisseur wife, she usually buys tickets and doesn't tell me because she knows that I'm busy. But she always knows that if she tells me like 3, I'll be like, yeah, let's go. But I think we have tickets to Guns N' Roses at the Thunder Ridge, so I think that's going to be our next one.
Have you seen them before?
I have seen them before. It's kind of weird, and I'm now old enough. I'm 47, soon to be 48 in a few days here. But when people start talking about people they've seen, it's been a long time since I have said I haven't seen them. So, like, it was, yeah. So that's kind of cool. Now, my kids are a little bit more into some of the newer music that I haven't had a chance, but like my favorite radio station is Alt Nation, on Sirius XM. and I say it's my favorite station. I like a lot of the local stations, but some of that new music that I get, and you're able to travel. So we like to go to festivals in the summer and see some of that stuff.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, because I really didn't turn on that concert faucet until the last, 10 or 15 years, but it occurred to me, Joy, you better get there or they're not going to be there anymore. And I saw Fleetwood Mac when Christine was still there, and I saw the Eagles before Glenn Frey passed, and there are some that and I saw Steely Dan before Walter Becker died. So, yeah, and there are some that I've missed out on. So I completely hear you, and it's just such a fun thing to do.
Yeah, the Eagles, we saw. Did you see the Eagles at JQH, or I guess now it's Great Southern Arena?
No, I missed that, and I also missed when Elton John came. I was out of state, broke my heart, and I've never seen Elton, and very likely won't. No, I saw them in Little Rock.
Yeah, so we went to the opening of the Great Southern Bank Arena. Yeah. It used to be JQH, and but one of the crazy things, and I hope this isn't true, but we just went to, and I say just, it's probably been a year and a half, maybe 2 years. We went to see the Rolling Stones at Thunder Ridge. Mm-hmm. They don't have any more tours scheduled. They don't even have. So there could be, and it would make me sad, that could be the last time the Rolling Stones ever play as the original group. Well, actually, the guitar player, the drummer, had just died.
Yeah, Charlie Watts died while I was still at Ozarks Live. Yeah. Broke my heart.
Yeah, just died, and so who knows? They might not be back out there. But yeah, we love concerts, and if you don't go to concerts, you should.
I agree. They released a new album, the Stones, not long ago, and they said they were going to tour, but look. I'm telling you, you don't know.
Aerosmith put together a tour, then it got canceled. Rod Stewart just canceled his tour. I really wish, and I'm kicking myself. I wish I'd have saw Tom Petty. I never got to see Tom Petty. I really wish I'd have seen Tom Petty.
I never saw Tom Petty. One of my favorite, and I'm getting completely off topic here, but this is part of your personality. One of my favorite moments was when my daughter called me or texted me years ago and said, "Mom, have you ever heard of Phoebe Snow?" And I was like, "Of course I've heard of Phoebe Snow." And she had found an album in a thrift store and just thought it looked interesting. And now she can sing every word of everything Phoebe Snow ever did. And at the time, Audrey must have been 12. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I'm so proud of her. And I turned my kids into huge Earth, Wind, and Fire fans. And the first time I saw them, I was like sitting next to people who had their kids there. And I said, man, one day I would like to bring my kids, but how long are these guys going to play? Yeah. Well, that's been 10 years ago anyway. And my kids and I have seen them several times. Oh, yeah. It's so much fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We are, I would consider my wife and I, we're like a Blink-182 kind of, that's our go-to style, and which is a representation of the 90s and how we grew up and all of those things. So when they put the original members back together and went on the tour, we were like, we're definitely going. We ended up seeing them, I think, 5 times. And then we talked about what we were going to do in our empty nesting. And how some people want to go to the Badlands and they want to go tour all the national parks and things like that. And we were like, well, how about we go and just be groupies of the Blink-182 for a summer? And she's like, I'm in. I was like, we should totally do that. So we shall see. We'll take you along. We'll take you along.
I would love it. I have not seen them, and I do really love them. But yeah, I just think that's where it gets really fun. And if you have not seen Earth, Wind, and Fire, Paul Sundy, you get on it. I'm telling you, it's like turning on the radio back in the 70s, 80s. It's fabulous.
For some reason, I feel like I have seen them, but they were with a group of people. I've got a buddy that really loves Earth, Wind, and Fire, and when we play a music game at my house where you have the phone, you're like, what was the song that reminds you of your senior prom? Mm-hmm. And we go around the horn and everybody, and he always plays some form of Earth, Wind, and Fire, or that genre of style. So I think I've seen them, but I can't. It might have been Casey and the Sunshine Band. I'm not sure.
Well, and they may have been with a couple of other bands. Yeah,
it might have been a couple other bands. So, is there like 5 of them, Earth, Wind, and Fire?
Well, you got Philip Bailey, he did Easy Lover with Phil Collins, too, later on. And then you've got Ralph Johnson and Verdine White. Okay. Verdine being the brother of Maurice White, who started the whole party. Okay. And, Questlove just did this, I think it's HBO Plus documentary about Earth, Wind & Fire. So you need to get up to speed and call me when you go, and I'm going to go with you.
I need to get up to speed on Earth, Wind & Fire. Have you watched the Yacht Rock documentary?
Oh, my God. Loved it.
That was Loved it. Good. That was so good. I think it's on HBO Max or something like that. But it is a phenomenal documentary about yacht rock and how it became yacht rock, and those guys are probably some of the greatest musicians of our time. All of those guys, spoiler, it's not a spoiler, but the Beat It album, the Michael Jackson, his big, they were all studio musicians. So guys from Toto were playing on that album. So it was super cool. So if you ever want to watch it, you should.
Oh, it's amazing. And I had no idea what a little salty boy Christopher Cross was. Yeah. He cracked me up.
He absolutely was. And, it was so good. So what's crazy is now my kids, and probably, and I have a 21 and an 18-year-old, they're all like, hey, Dad, have you ever heard this song? And, my daughter was playing Champagne Supernova by Oasis. And I was like, yes, honey, I graduated high school. I have heard this song. It's so cool. So there's something happening in music right now, and it makes me so happy that it's all of these, and I don't want to be this old guy that's nobody makes good music anymore, but I feel like when I was growing up, you were like, oh, you listen to your parents' music, and it was kind of like this shunned thing, but now it's well, it's your daughter talking about, do you know this person? And now she's singing so it kind of makes me happy that a lot of the music that I still listen to, and that's why I listen to, alternative rock, because I like to find, I like to think songs find you. And
I love that.
When a song finds you, it doesn't matter what genre or where it came from, it just finds you.
I don't know if you ever Shazam, but my Shazam is the most bipolar, ridiculous ADHD, and I'm not making fun of any of that, but it is the most bizarre. Over the years, I'll stop what I'm doing in a restaurant like this one, look for the speaker in the ceiling, and I'll stand under it long enough to get it, because it'll just strike me, So,
Good music is like art, and I'm a below average artist as well, but when you see something in an art museum, or if you're strolling on Facebook and there's something and it's pleasing to your eye, that's what art is, which is the same as what music can be. It's pleasing to your ear, and it's different for everybody, and different art pieces move people in a different way, and different music moves people in different ways. So it finds you, though.
I like that. It does find you.
When you're responsible for feeding a group, you want it to be simple. And, of course, you want everyone to love it. Zoli's Catering makes it easy with baked pastas, pizza, fresh salad, and our famous signature garlic breadsticks. It's a great fit for any size office lunch, meeting, family gathering, team meal, or any occasion. Find the menu and order online at fazoli's.com.
Fast, fresh, Italian, Fazoli's.
Some people check the weather. Others check our soup of the day. Hi, this is Jim with Jim's Steakhouse and Pub. Our soup of the day changes, but the comfort never does. Just check with your server, because nothing takes the edge off a cold day like whatever's simmering at Jim's.
When you walk through those legendary doors, you're gonna find there's so much to love. So do yourself a favor, dig that service and flavor. Jim's Steakhouse and Pub.
Have you heard the news? Kitchenland USA in Nixa has expanded with a new 2,000 square foot addition. Now they're fully dedicated to your kitchen and bath projects from start to finish, and it's all under one roof. Stop by the new showroom to see and touch the newest sinks, tubs, walk-in showers, faucets, lighting displays, tile, and flooring, all in one showroom.
Kitchenland USA, newly expanded kitchen and bath showroom in Nixa, where your vision is our mission.
All right, getting back to food, which is kind of why we're here, but hospitality is hospitality, and entertainment is part of that. So anyway, your menu, was it a collaborative effort among everyone? What was your first thing you said when you had this idea of big whiskeys? What was your first thing that you thought of? Was it wings, appetizers, a great big juicy burger? What were you thinking?
So, and this was 20 years ago, so, you don't know what you don't know. The first thing that I was thinking when we started kind of on the journey was we wanted to use higher in quality ingredients because when you purchase groceries in our industry, there's French fries, there's good French fries, there's okay French fries, and then there's the kind of French fries that you just buy because they're cheap and you got to throw something on a plate. So when we first started, and this was 20 years ago, we used the highest quality of cheeses, the highest quality of meats, the best that we could find, that we could source out in the purveyor's world that they had. And it cost us a little bit more, but for kind of where we're at is we've been very fortunate because we do celebrate our bar product. We do have the ability to spend a little bit more money on some higher quality ingredients because we do have a liquor, beer, wine product that, helps offset some of those, because the restaurant industry it's a high risk, but it's also a high reward game. So, for some people that fail, it's not because their lack of trying, it's just, this game is not the easiest of game. And so when we got into it, we wanted to make sure that we offered the highest quality ingredients. And I wanted to have a steak. It's kind of funny. We had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich on our first menu because we were downtown. We thought it'd be a quick, we were 26 at the time and, didn't quite know. And then when we opened our Ozark location, because we were a bar and grill and everybody knows what a bar and grill is through the course of time. So we wanted to fall into that. Basically, we wanted to do what our competitors were doing at the time, just only a little bit better because they were all, and our competitors at the time, there wasn't a lot of one-offs of, some great people that have opened some great locations in Springfield. You were competing with TGI Fridays, Chili's, your Applebee's, your Cheddar's. That was what it was, Olive Gardens, things like that. There wasn't a ton of spin-offs, that of guys that had kind of created their own little brand. So we were trying to compete with them. Where we kind of won that battle was all of them had started lowering their quality of ingredients because they had to meet their margins for their stockholders. And we just kind of stayed with it. And we were downtown. And I think I'm on my third revitalization of downtown as we speak. But that was kind of during the first revitalization from, when the Hers mall closed or the Hers shopping complex closed, and it sat there for 15 or 20 years. And so we were kind of part of that come up. And downtown was a super great time for entrepreneurs and foodies and people that were wanting to really get after it and be, successful little business owners. And so we just decided to use the best quality ingredients we possibly could find, and we kept evolving and kept evolving. And then when we opened the Ozarks store, I looked at our menu and what it evolved into, and, we had, homemade pastas, and we had hand-cut steaks, and we had all the things that I wanted our restaurant to evolve into. And I was like, we're really not a bar and grill anymore. So that was when we changed the name from Big Whiskey's American Bar and Grill to Big Whiskey's American Restaurant and Bar, because we really were more of a full-blown restaurant. And we never looked back after that. And people have really embraced us. Because when we named it Big Whiskey's, I use this analogy, at some point they called their restaurant Hooters. That was, in 1989, whenever it started, that was a very aggressive name for what that concept evolved into. I think when they were at their max, they had over 1,700 locations, and we kind of thought the same of when we named it Big Whiskey's. Big Whiskey's was not, it was a bar name sounding at the time, 20 years ago. And, now I'm so happy that we did, because it makes us stand out in an industry of, all the same kind of names. And little did we know that whiskey would become the fastest trending spirit for, 7 years, 8 years. And, we kind of rode those cocktails, or those cocktails. See what I did there?
I see what you did. Very clever.
Cocktails. We kind of rode those coattails of that, and we continually tried to increase our whiskey offerings and how we offer that product and how we serve it and all those things. So it just kept evolving. So we've never been scared to evolve, but what I don't want to do is I don't want to evolve so much that we forget who we were and who we are. And so, some of our pastas that we have, which are not the most inexpensive pastas to make, they run a pretty high food cost, but they're so damn good. And so we're still going to lean into those things. And I truly believe that if we, get one guest at a time, we'd really be involved in our communities and they try our food. We make food as long as it's made to the recipes and specs that it's incomparable. I mean, people will come back for it.
I love the way you celebrate Nixa and the city. We're sitting in Nixa right now, and I think there's pennants and what have you when you walk in the front door, and I think that's great to do for the local folks.
Yeah, we made a decision. Well, I mean, it was when we were downtown. I mean, kind of like I was saying, when downtown was our area, I mean, we were, whatever it took, we were going to be a part of that community. And so we kind of took what started in downtown, in the downtown community, and anytime we go open a store, whether it be in Hoover, Alabama, or Davie, Florida, or whatever, we want you to be a part of that community. So we believe that a lot of life happens inside our locations, and some days it's celebrations, and some days it's hard conversations that people are having across the 3 foot of table, and we want to be that place that can experience all of those highs and lows of life with a good meal in front of you. And you'd be surprised in this polarizing world that we currently live in, just a great meal with people you might not necessarily agree with, or it solves wonders. And so we want to be that place in our community that everybody feels welcome to come at whatever time in their life that they want to come.
I love that, and you're so right. There's just nothing better than that. Good food with good friends. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, franchise. All of a sudden, things are going pretty well. Yeah. It's like, what, we might do something here. Was that a whole new concept to you, or were you familiar? I mean, you'd been at Cheddar's and you'd been at different places, but to franchise your own, how big of a learning curve?
So I'd said earlier, with like Einstein Bagel, and Einstein Bagel was a franchise, and then Whole Hog was a licensing agreement, and we brought those to town. So I had dabbled in it a little bit and learned a lot about, kind of the rules and regulations, but it's one of those things when somebody says, I want to franchise a store, that's a lot easier said than done. We made a conscious decision probably about 1.5 years before we were actually legally, because at the time we were still, figuring it out. We had different ramekins at different stores. We had, not all of our build sheets were exactly the same. And so we hired a consultant that came down and was like, hey, give us an evaluation. How would we go about this if we were going to do this? And they gave us this, 7 to 10 page, evaluation of what we needed to do. So we spent a year consolidating all the stores, getting them all the same way. Mm-hmm. We started charging our stores franchise fees just because we wanted to make sure that if we're going to sell somebody something that we believe in, I wanted to make sure that when I told them you could make this much money or you can, be successful in this, that we were able to be successful. So we tweaked some things. We looked at our menus, we looked at our menu mixes, and we really made that decision. So it took about 1 year. And a lot of that was one of our first franchisees, who's now opened 3 more stores. He'd kept pursuing us. He was like, hey, I'd love to open one of these stores in Bentonville. And I was like, we can't legally sell you one because there's a lot of legality. That industry is a big $1 billion, industry. And so there's some laws and there's some regulations. There's certain states we can't franchise in because of where we live and, where our setup is. So there was a lot of legalese that went in there. And it's to protect the franchisee and also to protect the franchisor. And so we kind of, it took us, I'd probably say, every bit of 2.5 years to figure out how to really get this thing going. And I'm sure if you ever interviewed Andy from Andy's Frozen Custard.
I interviewed Carol, but yeah.
There you go. And I'm assuming that they had their growing pains and that, in that first couple of years when they decided to really figure this out. And then you look at your construction cost and all the things that come along with it, and you've got to kind of spell all that out. And you want to protect the people that are making an investment in your brand, and you want to make sure that if they're going to spend a ton of money to do this, that they can make money and they can have a return on their investment. And your goal is to beat the stock market. That's that's kind of how you expand.
Well, how many are out there now?
22 are open. I know that we have 4 under construction that are various stages of construction. Some of them are in the architect phases. Some of them are some of them are getting ready to break ground. Some of them already broke ground. But if we have all the ones that are sold right now, if they're all open, they're supposed to open within the next 18 to 24 months. We'll have 31 stores. And they say about the time you hit 25, and who is they? I have no idea. Is industry experts, so to speak. When you hit about 25 stores open, that's when it starts to get a little bit of a mind of its own, and we are starting to notice that is starting to happen, and I think we're getting ready to hang on to the reins and let's see what this thing can do.
You say get a mind of its own. It's just taken off, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's taken off. Yeah, I think Andy's at this point, they have 130-something, 140-something. I'm super proud of. There's so many good things that have come out of Springfield, and for Whiskey's to be hopefully one of those eventually. And I couldn't say enough good things about all the cool things that can happen in Springfield.
Oh, me too. Yeah. It's a really exciting place to be. It really is. Where are the new ones coming? Can you tell us?
I can tell you 3 of them. So Sedalia, which cool. Tattersall, which is our biggest market right now is Alabama. Alabama loves us, and they're all freestanding stores. And it kind of makes me sad a little bit, Joy, because Springfield hasn't seen what Whiskey's has evolved into, because these are we have great locations and great landlords at a lot of our locations, and we own a few of the buildings. Like the one we're sitting in next, so we purchased the Ruby Tuesdays and converted it into Whiskey's, but we didn't. Springfield's never seen, or the Springfield proper hasn't seen like a ground up prototype store. And I'm super proud of our ground-up prototype stores. I'm proud of our stores here locally. But one of these days, and hopefully we'll roll up the sleeves and make the investment and do a prototype store here in Springfield. And whenever the leases are up, maybe of a couple locations, wink, wink, we might eventually build a prototype store in Springfield and hopefully show Springfield what was created in Springfield and what it's evolved into.
I think it sounds like a great idea. You just let me know if there's anything we need to. Okay. I'm sure I will be. Speaking of kind of a prototype, tell me about this whiskey yard concept over in Lebanon.
Yeah. So the whiskey yard concept kind of evolved out of, they say necessity is the modern day inventor, and what we realized was that. There was entertainment eating that was happening, and that was happening on a super large scale. Your Top Golfs, your Chicken and Pickles, your all of these places that had these outdoor spaces. Now we're not in that industry. Those are 25,000 square foot minimum locations that have 4 or 5 acre tracts. And so I thought to myself, I was like, well, how can we do this on a smaller scale that still kind of represents that entertainment eating kind of mindset?
Yeah, the eatertainment.
Eatertainment, yeah, that kind of represents that. And so we bought the building in Lebanon, and the stars kind of aligned. Our original first prototype store in Hoover, Alabama, they had some extra space, and it was in kind of a shopping retail district, and so rather than put grass in it because it was going to be walked on, they'd put high-quality AstroTurf. And I saw that, and I was like, so that kind of spurred a little bit. I was like, we could turn this into something that has a little bit more than just walk across this AstroTurf grass. And so I'd kind of worked with them just a little bit, and obviously we didn't have all the budgets and all that stuff figured out. And then when we did Lebanon, it really I was like, all right, we're going to do one here. We added garage doors and did all that stuff into our prototype store. And what ended up happening is and I'm going to bore a ton of people real quick, but I have to tell you the math. So when you open a store and you're selling franchisees, you have to have value dollar on how much it costs to build and how much money you can make with 24-foot hoods, with 250-seat restaurants. And we were kind of teetering on. It was construction costs were going up. It was coming out of COVID, 2021. Construction costs were through the roof. And I was like, well, we can add a minimum of 1,700 square feet at about, less than $100 a square foot to really build this extra seating area. So that became just a project that was just deep in my brain. I was like, I want to figure out how to do this cost effectively, increase the square footage of the overall restaurant. So now we can take a 5,000 square foot restaurant, have a really killer patio / Whiskey's Yard, and we can do it for a very cost effective way that allows your restaurant to be a hybrid in some of these smaller towns that would never get a Chicken and Pickle or a Topgolf or some of these larger yard spaces. Now we're able to be that space to some of these, suburbs that have, hey, we can go there and, sit and have a beer and some food, in the yard, and our kids can run around and play ping pong and play, flip cup or whatever the case may be. And then we have the place for there to be another community space for people to have 40-year-old birthdays or, Friday night football lights, and, they can come there and do all that stuff. So it's really worked out super cool. And it's one of the things that people really enjoy. And if you've ever driven by our Lebanon store at night, you should, because it's probably one of the most inviting looking stores when it's night and you have all the lights going. It's just like, wow, that's a place I want to be. So that's kind of how it evolved.
Activity lit up like a football stadium or something. Yes. You're thinking, I don't know what's going on over there, but I'm going to go check it out. Yeah, for sure. Yep. Okay. Good stuff. Well, you've got everything here from killer appetizers and dips, and the sandwiches, the wraps. I love your Cobb salad. But if you want a big steak, you can come here too. I know you have a lot of gluten-free, so you're having to pay attention to food allergies. Yeah,
we have. So as you evolve, and we're right around there. We call it gluten-friendly. And if you're a gluten-free kind of person, and you need to know that, most people know what gluten-friendly is we can't guarantee that our kitchen doesn't have gluten in it. It does. But some kitchens are absolutely gluten-free. But we have a gluten-friendly menu. We have all the things. There's a veggie wrap on here that we have a lady in our office who's a sweetheart, and she's a vegetarian or maybe a pescatarian. I don't know. It's one of those two. But so we kind of put this on, and so it's like a fajita veggie wrap with no chicken. And it's a really good wrap. So we've kind of hit the gamut of all those things, and protein is a super big thing right now. So our all of our fish that we use is a high quality grade fish, and we're super proud of kind of the products that we're able to offer, being in Middle America. And I had an interview with, I think, Franchise Times about a year ago, and it was like there's Midwestern restaurants that are rivaling these places on the West and East Coast, and the Midwest is coming out. Like we are ready to, have concept will travel, and I want to kind of be one of the restaurants that prove that, and so it kind of makes me happy, and I know we're excited about it.
That's so exciting. And I can just tell by your voice and the look in your eye how much you love what you do. Yeah. And that just makes it better for everybody. It really does. You even do a brunch. We do brunch, yeah. So and this is another evolution of our brand. So those the First Watch style concepts, they were heating up the industry, and a lot of people were trying to get into the brunch and trying to do all that stuff, and we realized that we were not going to compete with any of those places being a breakfast place. We would rather lean into the show up at 9:30. And have a little nightcap after a movie or something like that, then wake up at 6 and walk the biscuits at this place. So we kind of came up with this hybrid brunch that most stores, and it's not required, but most of our local stores open at 10:30, and we have a brunch menu till 2 or 3 with mimosas and Bloody Marys and obviously all the other cocktails. But it's kind of hilarious. We have some Cali
we call it Abby's Cali Tacos, and she's been a long time kitchen lead for us, and she, and it's an avocado taco, and it's super good, and it's got egg in it and a little bit of chicken with some chorizo and all the stuff, and she's allergic to avocados, so we named it after her, and she loves making them, but she's like, oh yeah, so there's a brunch melt on there, and this isn't going to win me any brownie points, but so we do food tastings, and we do food tastings over and over and over again, and we get a lot of different people with a lot of different palates, and you might be one of them, Joy. We might ask you to come try out some new foods. So we were in our last little moment. It just wasn't hitting, and I'd had a little bit too much fun at a buddy's 40th birthday party the night before, and I was like, hey. We'd done the tasting, and I was like, could I just get one of our fried chicken sandwich with an egg and some pepper jack cheese and some chipotle mayo on toast? And one of our guys in the kitchen made me one, and I cut it up, and everybody tried it. Well, needless to say, that was our brunch melt, and that has moved into kind of one of our top sellers, and I'm super proud that I had too much fun that night with my buddy for his 40th birthday party to evolve into the brunch melt. So if you don't come try brunch, you should. We've actually moved that sandwich onto our main menu because it's such a good sandwich.
I have not had it, but I've seen it, and it looks amazing. I was on your Facebook page or maybe your website, and I love this. You're very kind to people. There was a message on there that says something like brownie with every takeout order or something. Yeah. Was that your idea?
Yeah, so, and I hate talking about it, but, COVID changed our industry as a whole. And what do I mean by that? Well, it was if anybody was in the restaurant industry at that time, and we had to, it was adapt or die. So we had pulled we'd put all of our plates out of our kitchens. We'd laid off a ton of our staff, and that was very painful. We had asked managers to ride or die with us, and almost all of them did. And I made a promise to myself and all my staff. I was like, we're going to do the same amount of sales in to-go only that we were doing in our restaurants. And we pulled all the stuff out, and fortunately we were getting ready to launch a to-go delivery program with our app, so we kind of rushed it. It was probably about 4 months away. We rushed it and was like, okay, it's out. We failed a little bit during that process, but I wanted people to consider us a very good to-go option, your go-to to-go, if you see our advertisement. So we put warm brownies with every to-go bag that went home. And I'm happy to say that we were able to not only pay our employees what they had earned, but we gave them all 10% more of what their salaries were that year. We ended up getting our sales back to what the sales were. And now the to-go program that we've established makes up about 13 to 15% of our total sales, in addition to getting all the business back inside the restaurant. So, COVID was the best thing that ever happened to us, because it was just our heads are down and we're going after it. And I had a lot of beautiful people that were ready to believe in not only this brand, but believe in what we'd done in the past. It was cool.
Well,
now we're bringing brownies back. Now we're bringing brownies back. So we're doing a to-go push, and just kind of in a very subtle way, because nobody likes to hear the word COVID anymore. Hell, I hate saying it. But now it's just you get a free warm brownie when you order a to-go meal.
I just think that's fabulous. It just makes you feel so good. It's just such a nice thing to do.
You can have the corner brownie that you steal.
Thank you. Yes, that's the one I want. Cut around the edges?
Yeah, cut around the edges.
Oh, the good part for sure. But that's the kind of thing that I think makes people feel good. And it was a learning curve for sure. That whole thing, I won't even say it, but it seems like a weird fever dream to me. So I'm going to let you go here in a second, but I do want to ask you, what the heck with this Payne's Valley
The tornado?
The tornado. I'll be honest with you. I saw that when you put that video up, and I was like, I saw the video, and I didn't really realize who put it up. I just started watching it, and then I was like, wait, that was you? What? Tell me how that day unfolded.
So it was actually, we were playing golf with a vendor. I was playing with our vice president of operations, who's worked with me for 25 years, Matty Catano, and we were on the 13th hole. And if you've ever played at Payne's Valley, it's beautiful, and we're lucky to have, everything that Johnny's done down there.
Down at Big Cedar Golf, down around Branson, right?
Around Branson. And the 13th hole is as far away from anything as you can get, and it kind of sits on top of this hill. And we saw this cloud. There was no thunderstorm warnings. There was nothing. Like, it was just, it just got done sprinkling rain in, a little bit of heavy. You know how when sometimes rain clouds come through, it's a little heavier, but it's just kind of, so nothing to be concerned about. And I've played plenty of golf in worse conditions. And then the guys we were playing with, they were on the other side of the fairway because it was cart path only, because it rained. And me and Matty were like, I was like, Matty, is that a tornado? And he's like, I think that's a tornado. And I was like, Matty, we gotta, let's hop in here. So we start going, Matty starts recording, I'm driving, and there's no place to go because out there where we happened to be at, it was kind of where it was just open. And I was like, the whole thing was 2 minutes and 37 seconds long, and I didn't know what to do, but I remember coming down, and a lot of people were like, well, you went to an underpass. We went to the lowest point, at the bottom of a creek. It did have an overpass by it, but whereas if you're going down a highway, they tell you not to go the overpass because you're going back up, and they're building up a mountain. We were going just trying to get to the lowest point. And, a golf cart only goes 12 miles an hour. Well, I was bouncing curbs, and I was like, screw it. If the golf cart breaks, it breaks. Well, I bounced one curb a little too hard, and we flipped the golf cart, went running in, and got down there in what I would consider just the nick of time. And when you came out of it, there was probably 12 trees on the course that had been ripped out of the ground within 50 yards of us. So we were on the back side of it as it was coming through, and needless to say, it was wildly interesting that day. I called my wife, the minute we got done, and I was like, babe, I was just in a tornado. She was in Nixa, and it was obviously sunny skies like it is today, and she's like, what are you talking about? Are you on drugs? And I was like, I got to call you back because the emergency people were coming down to where we were at, and I was like, I'll call you back. And so I just had sent her the video, and she was like, oh my gosh. So it was definitely, 0 out of 10 would not repeat. The golf, 10 out of 10, absolutely would repeat.
That is the craziest thing. Like I said, I saw it and I was just floored, and then I realized it was you, and I was like, wait, were you driving? Were you shooting? I'm not sure. Doesn't matter. Everybody lived, and your buddies across the fairway, they're okay too.
Yeah, they're all okay. So I guess ended up being there was like 12 guys that went and sat behind a rock. And fortunately, the tornado ran right down the valley instead of going up above it, because the day turned out very lovely compared to what it could have been with all those guys out there, because there was literally no place to go. And that was, in my lifetime, that was 100% the scariest I've ever been.
I would imagine. So you were on 13. Did you play all 18 or 19?
Well, we ended up just playing 13 because when our golf cart flipped, we broke one of the wheels, and then when it flipped, it hurt Matty's shoulder. They treated us very well down there at Big Cedar, and they took care of us, gave us a couple more rounds. So we've since been back, as tornado celebrities. So they've taken care of us to play some golf back down there.
I think it was time for some big whiskey, like a big glass of whiskey or something after an ordeal like that, just to cheers the fact that you made it through that.
I think if you look at my Facebook page, I think that was what I had that night was a big tall glass of whiskey, and just I probably watched that video. I actually just had somebody text me last week. They're like, hey, I want to show my father-in-law that. And it had been, 6 or 8 months since I'd watched a video. And when I go back and watch it, it's still crazy. I'm like, oh, my goodness, that's crazy.
Is it Payne's Valley that has the 19th hole, that last
hole? I think there was just a couple of guys that drove a golf cart off of it or something on accident, and I saw that video. But, yeah, it's super cool. If you've never been down there, you should totally go.
It is a beautiful spot, and Big Whiskeys is just a beautiful thing. I can talk to you all day. Music, food, oh my gosh, this is my wheelhouse. I love it. But anyway, Paul Sundy, Big Whiskeys, check it out if you haven't. And you know what? I know I got a call if you're interested in opening one somewhere. Anyway, Paul, thank you for joining me on Savor the Ozarks.
Joy, thank you so much. It's been lovely.
Be sure to go to aroundtheozarks.com to sign up for our daily newsletter where you can get every episode of Savor the Ozarks, plus all our other podcasts, events, and contests straight to your inbox. And what are your favorite dishes in the 417? Do you have any restaurants you'd like me to visit? Email me at joy@aroundtheozarks.com.